Hi, everyone. It's Anne with Women-S, and I am thrilled today to be talking with Lauren Embree, who is the founder of Embree Wellness Consulting and creator of the Performance Perspective and Get Wholesome with Embree Wellness. Embree Wellness advises women on the power of nutrition and wholesome eating to fuel strong. Welcome, Lauren, and thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and to help educate on all of the healthy, holistic nutrition tips.
Well, this is great because, as you know, women who are in this stage of their life, this is such an important topic to them. So tell me a little bit about your background. How did you come into this field?
Yes, so this has been a passion for as long as I can remember, but I was first a professional tennis player and an ex-collegiate tennis player. So I played tennis pretty competitively my whole life, had a great career at the University of Florida, turned pro, had a great career on tour, but throughout all of that, obviously had to rely on my body for a lot of performance things and not being hurt, feeling good, having high energy. And I started to realize how correlated my diet was to my gut health, to how I felt, to my performance on and off court, to sleeping, to all of these things. And I unfortunately got kind of diagnosed with a few different autoimmune diseases. And through the power of nutrition and through changing my diet, not that I had a bad diet, but I was, I thought I was invincible at 22 and I was, outputting all these calories. I could eat whatever I wanted. And that is not the case. The whole you can't out exercise a bad diet is a true statement. So I completely realigned and shifted my diet to a more holistic, wholesome approach. And from there, just kind of went rolling because I wanted to help people feel better. And honestly, I knew that if I felt as bad as I felt being a pretty healthy person, that there was a lot of room for education and help in this field. So since I was 22, when I retired from my tennis career, I got into college coaching as well. But I really started to realign my life into the functional medicine space and kind of went all holistic, kind of started over from an education standpoint. And now I help women, I help athletes, I help really your general pop, anybody who's having such issues from a fatigue, energy, hormone health, stage of life, menopause, peri, post, all of the things just feel better through things that we can control, which is the food we put in our body. So happy to be here and happy to share the knowledge.
Well, thank you. I'm 54. I was lucky that I could eat whatever I wanted when I was younger. And now the change is seismic,
Yeah,
seismic. The
yeah,
tire in the waist, the way that food affects me, how it makes me
totally,
tired, or it can affect my sleep at night.
totally.
It's something that I personally never had to think of. And now it's
Same.
literally so much of what
Yes,
I think of.
yes.
What exactly is a functional nutritionist?
Yeah, so functional medicine is just a different state. It's a different practice of health and studying health. Really, is just correlating the two and believing that food is the medicine and kind of medicine is the food approach. So, healthy gut is usually a healthy body, usually, and our gut health is one of the most important things that we need to nourish and protect because that's where everything stems from. So, functional medicine is really just trying to find the root cause of whatever it is that's going on with us from obviously, any autoimmune disease, like I had myself. So any colitis, Crohn's, whether it be ankylosing spondylitis, which is the one I had, uveitis, inflammation of the eye, also had, and then anything from like a hormonal standpoint. So PCOS, or just getting really bad PMS, or having irregular periods, or not getting your period, like anything basically with an itis, skin flare ups, acne, eczema, hives. That's functional medicine, is just like, how do I calm this down from an immune response? That's just your immune system kind of attacking itself through eating more anti-inflammatory and getting more nourishing foods every single day in our diet, in our body, can help, like, just help us feel better and maybe not completely heal or reverse, but definitely more on track to feeling more normal and vibrant and just optimal.
All right, well, that's great, and we appreciate your partnership with Women-S. We love that you have recently done a blog for us, and you
Yes,
talk about the top 5 things, the top 5 nutrition tips that you need in midlife. So important, and so I'd love to go through
totally.
that list
Yeah.
and talk about each of these. Number one, starting with knowing your protein number.
Yes, one of the most important, I tell a lot of clients and a lot of people that I get to speak to, like if there's anything you do, let's just start trying to track or be mindful of our macronutrients, which is macronutrients are protein, fat, carbs, and how much of we're consuming every single day. So getting enough protein every single day, where a lot of us are underdosing ourselves with that one specific macro because it's just hard to grab and go protein. It's something we have to think about, maybe based on like what kind of diet we follow. We are limited in our the amount that we can consume and what has protein in it, but really just the rule of thumb to keep muscle mass on our body, to stay super lean, to feel high energy, to not feel like you're hungry all the time or feel like you're dieting. That's definitely not the approach that I feel like is the most sustainable long term. It's knowing this number, and the number I say in the blog, but just to remind everybody again, it's at least 75 grams a day to start, but what it really should be is 1 gram per pound of your ideal body weight. So if you feel good where you're at from a body weight standpoint, example, if I'm 145 pounds, that's how much protein I should be trying to consume every single day, which seems like a lot at first, which is why I say if you can just start with like a even split of like 35, 35, 35 every meal, breakfast, lunch, dinner, you're probably doing yourself a favor. Our metabolism is very much a muscle, so we have to train it to get to 145 grams of protein. When somebody first told me that, I was like, that is so much food. But there's strategies around that. And I talk about that a lot when I speak as well, as like eating your protein first and knowing what has the most protein in it, because protein really does satiate you. So it's really hard to overeat calories when you're so focused on just getting enough or more protein than you normally do on a day-to-day basis. A lot of things will shift from a body composition standpoint when you start to focus on your protein.
So how do I find out what is protein? Like I know
Yes,
chicken is protein, but
correct.
for me, chicken is probably chicken with Buffalo Wild Wing sauce dipped in blue cheese, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm doing it all wrong.
No, no,
How
no.
do I find out what protein is besides just chicken? And how much of it is making up that number that I'm trying to get to?
Yeah, that's a great question. So protein, no, if you just know, and there's a bunch of like charts online that show it, like embreewellness.org shows it, like just knowing kind of, okay, here are the 10 sources of protein, animal products, getting good quality animal products, chicken, turkey, beef, wild fish, eggs, highest amount of protein, highest, most nutrient dense foods. And then of course, right underneath that, you have like Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, cleaner protein shake. And then right underneath that, you've got everything else. And you've got like your beans and your lentils and your quinoa. That's kind of more of a carbohydrate before it's a protein. But as long as you know, and that's an easy, quick, like what are the top 10 highest protein sources? And then you just keep rotating between these 10 or 12, you're getting more protein than you think. And then just a good rule of thumb is like the palm of your hand is about 4 to 5 ounces of meat, or like a serving of protein. So that's anywhere from like 25 to 30, 35. And it's really hard to overeat. So just knowing a few of these things by just, looking it up, maybe listening to a podcast or two, going on some sites, you can start to track that in your head without like weighing food or, getting into a pretty unhealthy spiral about calorie counting and all of the things.
Right. And if you don't have it planned and you don't know what's the easy thing to grab for, you're going to end up grabbing for the wrong thing because you're going to get
Yeah.
hungry
So
and spiral. And the next thing you know, I'm in a big bowl of pasta with garlic
totally.
bread.
Yeah, totally. And we've all been there. So I do like to always say, like, just start with the first meal that you consume every single day. Don't feel like you need to be perfect for the whole day. But if you can get that first meal to just like optimize protein synthesis and optimize your muscle mass by getting protein in your first meal, for females, it's about 25, 30 grams minimum to actually stimulate this stuff that we need for muscle mass. And then if the rest of the day falls apart, fine. But like that first meal, if we can just focus on that, I think that really helps women, like, okay, I can do that. That doesn't sound super overwhelming. Like, let me just make sure my first meal isn't, just toast or just cereal or just oatmeal. Let me make sure it's maybe like chicken sausage or eggs or some Greek yogurt or protein smoothie, and just like shifting that around a little bit is helpful.
Right. And I think if you do it first thing in the morning, then you feel like, okay, I can reach this goal instead of waiting till the end of the day. And all of a sudden you're like, I didn't eat well all day. Now I got to hurry up and catch up.
Totally. And it's hard to get 75, 80 grams a day if we're missing out on protein in each meal. Like that's your opportunity to get it in. So if I have a meal that doesn't have protein in it, I mean, myself, I'm getting 150 grams of protein a day. I'm not getting that if I miss a meal with it. So
Right.
just, you don't have to get there tomorrow, but just think about upping it. And that will help a lot of your hormonal health, your energy levels, your inflammation levels, like all of the things that we battle every single day.
Okay, well, that's helpful. I am going to
Yeah.
make a list of things that are protein because like I said, I have no idea. And if
Yeah.
I have
Happy to
it and
help
I
you
get
too.
into the habit, thank you.
Yeah.
And
For
I will
anybody,
like,
like anybody in the Facebook group or following Womanettes, like happy to help navigate through this because it seems super overwhelming, but I promise we can make it as simple as possible. And then you just start to catch steam. So happy to help
that's great.
whenever.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, number two, keep the carbohydrate load 1 to 1 or less. What does that mean and what makes up the carbohydrate load?
Yeah, so carbohydrates, right? They're not the enemy, they're not the devil. We need them for energy for our brain, right? They just fall into two different categories. One is a simple carb, one is a complex carb. We obviously want to aim more towards the complex carbs because those are the lower blood sugar spiking carbohydrates. They're a little bit more nutrient rich. These are like your fruits, your vegetables. That's not its own separate macro. That is an actual carbohydrate. It's just a complex carb. Sweet potatoes, quinoa, legumes, lentils. These are all complex carbs, high in fiber, like what we want. Simple carbohydrates are really anything that tastes really good when you chew it. So think about that. Think about like a bagel, a white bagel, a piece of bread, a baked potato, anything white, cereal, French toast, pastries, muffins, like all of these simple carbs, non-flavor or non carbonated, like anything, right? So anything that's not water as a beverage, like energy drinks or sodas and things like that. These all digest as sugar, which means they digest super quickly in our body. They increase our blood sugar and they cause inflammation. So if we can just keep that to like 10 to 15% of our diet, and then the whole carbohydrate load of keeping it 1 to 1, what that means is that protein number. So if you're getting in 30 to 40 grams of protein in the morning for breakfast, I don't want my carbohydrate number to exceed my protein.
Mhm.
And that falls across the entire day, right? A lot of people without knowing it are over consuming the wrong kind of calories and now they're undernourishing our body, which means they're over consuming carbs, undernourishing protein. I want to keep it equal or the carbs a little bit less than the protein. So if I have 150 grams of protein a day, I'm probably not going to consume more than 150 grams of carbohydrates, unless, I'm outputting a bunch. But most of our audience and women and going through this stage of life, like, if you can keep the carbohydrates, lower than your protein number, again, your body composition will change. Your hormones will come back into balance. You will sleep better. You'll have more energy. You won't have as much brain fog. So just also paying attention to the kind of carb we're choosing and then how much is our load for the whole day and making sure it's 1 or less than protein.
So fruits, while they have a lot of carbs, it's a better thing for you to be eating because it's the right
Yes.
kind of carbs.
It's the right kind of carb. And also another great tip is like think about fruit and vegetables being one ingredient, right? Like there's only one ingredient in strawberries. It's a strawberry. There's one ingredient in broccoli. There's one ingredient in chicken. There's one ingredient in beef. There's one ingredient in sweet potatoes, quinoa. Like there's a lot of ingredients in a muffin, right? There's a lot of ingredients in cereal. So that's another helpful tip is just like try and find one ingredient foods and you're doing some of these things that we're talking about.
Is there any benefit if you're a big pasta person and you're saying, not the best because it's a white pasta? Is there benefit in doing those whole wheat pastas? Or I actually saw an edamame pasta in the store.
Great
Is it
question.
better for you?
So yeah, so that's also can be confusing, right? So the all the labels, but the white pasta and the whole wheat, essentially same kind of thing. It's going to digest very quickly. It's a super processed form of wheat. If you're going to do pasta, awesome. Keep it to a serving size. Try and get like a brown rice pasta or a gluten-free pasta, edamame-based pasta, chickpea-based pasta. These are all now higher fiber, lower white starch of a base, right? So you've got a little bit more nutrients and nutrient packed in that serving, and then just keep it to a serving, put some protein on top, and that's an excellent meal. We can't have all the pasta with all the sauce with no protein all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
And what about, like, say, for example, you're having Chinese food and you have chicken. Is it better to do brown rice, white rice, than the white rice, or is it really not that big of a difference? Just keep the rice total to a minimum.
Nailed it. So in my opinion, it's not that big of a deal because there's pros and cons to brown and white. Like brown, you can say is more mold, white is white, it digests quicker. So there's pros and cons of each. I would say the quantity is what matters the most. So
Okay,
keeping it
great.
to like half a cup.
Great to know, because I'm always like, oh, but I love
Yeah.
brown rice. Look at
It's
me. I'm
honestly a
so
personal
good.
preference.
Yeah,
Yeah. Just don't have 2 cups.
don't have much. Okay, number 3, don't be scared of fat.
Yes. And this one is so, so, so important. And I totally get the word is kind of scary. And I know we've gone through different trends. And I know the 80s and 90s are maybe like all the fat-free things.
Right.
But really, fat is the third macro that we need as part of our diet for so many things. It protects our brain and our organs and keeps that healthy and strong. B, it really helps satiate us. So without any fat in our diet, you are going to crave these hyperpalatable foods and the sugar and all of these, super addicting foods. So adding healthy fat within our meals, sprinkling on some olive oil, cooking in grass-fed butter, trying to get full fat Greek yogurt, like just trying not to be scared of that fat word because a little bit of healthy fat, we need fat to burn fat on our body. So it's really important that we find, mono and polyunsaturated fats and not saturated fats, which is the obvious, like ice cream and peanut butter and, things that have a lot of calories and a lot of saturated fat. We want the other kind of fat, which is avocados, nuts and seeds, avocado oil, coconut milk, things of that nature in our diet.
So olive oil, is it a
Olive oil,
net?
great. Yeah,
So olive
healthy
oil.
fat.
And what about, you mentioned butter? Um,
Yes.
just your regular store butter. I'm
Just
cooking
like
my
some
steak and,
grass-fed, some grass-fed Kerrygold butter.
oh,
Um,
Kerrygold. Yeah, I
yeah,
love their
Kerrygold's
butter.
awesome. As
Yeah,
opposed to buying like the 2%, I can't believe it's not butter, or the Country Life or the Smart
sure.
Balance. Like that stuff, if you turn over the back, has so many ingredients and chemicals in it. But if you just get a grass-fed butter, it tastes better, it's better for our bodies, and it nourishes us. So we are less likely to overeat after dinner if we're getting enough nutrients in our actual dinner.
Okay. Number 4 on the list is watch out for sneaky added sugars.
Yes. This is my favorite, well, one of my most favorite tips because there is added sugar in so many things in this
Sure.
country. Almost all packaged canned bottled foods have some sort of added sugar. So when you're looking at a label next time you're in the grocery store, I would highly recommend to not even look at the calories and just your eyes go to added sugar and ingredients in that product. And anything with a package will have an ingredient label. So as long as the added sugar is below like 6 to 9, I like to say is safe or less, it's probably somewhat decent. Anything north of like 9, 10 grams of added sugar is just way too much. Because we should not be consuming over for women about 25 to 30 grams of added sugar a day. And the average person is consuming about 40 to 50 grams of sugar a day, which is wild. So we can start to eliminate these things by checking our non-dairy milks, right? By checking our yogurts, get the plain instead of the flavored, checking our beverages, like trying to stick to water, carbonated water. Artificial sweeteners and protein bars and sugar and protein bars. So as long as we eliminate these things that shouldn't have added sugar in them, there's room for sugar in our diet. I can, have a few bites of chocolate at night or have, a couple bites of cheesecake or whatever it is that you like, that's your sugar for the day. But if I'm not doing a good job throughout the day, thinking my oat milk is better than this milk, but it's loaded with added sugar, now I'm in trouble because the consumption of added sugar is just way too high. But sugar really leads to inflammation. It leads to hormone disruption, gut health issues, intestinal permeability, brain fog. So trying to keep that weight gain, obviously, so trying to keep that to a minimum is so, so important.
Right. My biggest thing, I was so addicted to 2 things. Number 1, I love coffee. I cannot go
Oh
without my
yeah,
coffee in the morning. I'm a
same.
huge coffee person. The other
Yep.
thing I was doing was Coke Zero. And I was
Oh, interesting.
okay. Yeah.
Yep.
And I was doing Coke Zero. I kid you not, I would probably have 4 or 5 a day.
Yeah.
Loved
Wow.
them.
Are you
So
off of them now?
so much so a
Love
year
it.
ago in June, I feel like I should get some award or something.
Yes.
Because a year ago June, well, I have two brothers that were type 2 diabetes, and my late father had type 2 diabetes, and I saw myself headed right to this.
Yep. Yep.
um and I thought, okay, the first thing I'm going to do is eliminate soda completely, and if I can do it, and anybody can do it. And I just made a conscious decision. I went
Good for
cold turkey.
you.
June, so June was a year for me, so I'm a year and a half
Wow.
now. No soda, and
Mhm.
I don't miss it. I don't think about it.
Yes.
We have it in the fridge, and I don't even like
Wow,
drink
that's
Coke before.
impressive. You have it in your house and you still don't go for it.
I have 3 sons, so
Amazing.
but
Yeah.
and they're athletes too. So I'm sort of
Yeah.
like, guys, maybe we should knock off the soda altogether.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
don't even, if there's a
Touch it.
glass of it with ice cubes, sweating beautifully, fizzing on the counter, I still have no interest in it. So
Amazing. Yeah.
done with the sodas. And the
Good.
other thing that I did, I eliminated the sugar from my coffee, and
Yep.
I loved it. It's
Yep.
now I don't, after about
You
2 weeks,
don't crave
I'm
it.
telling you, Lauren, I don't
Yeah.
even miss it.
And I'm so
Um,
glad you said that because it's so hard to like think like, oh my God, how can I not go without soda or without sugar because you've done it for so long. But I
Correct.
promise you it only takes 3 to 5 days to break that habit. And then it becomes just like you don't even want it because our taste buds change. So
Mhm.
the more sugar and hyperpalatable foods and simple carbs that I have in my diet, the more I'm going to crave that. But as soon as I scale that back and replace it with protein and healthy fat and fiber and whole foods, I now crave that stuff. Like I'm sure you crave, black coffee or you crave, the sparkling water or whatever it is that's not the Coke or the Coke Zero, because artificial sugar are kind of just as painful as regular sugar. They actually cause your brainwaves to crave more sugar and eat more food. So that's why they're addicting. The aspartame in diet soda and Coke Zero, like it is an addicting chemical for our brains.
Yeah.
So just, yeah, starting to wean back is important. And then you'll start to notice like it becomes second nature. You don't even crave this stuff.
You don't even crave it. And I replace
Yeah.
it with water. Like I go
Yeah.
everywhere with a water thing. I
Same.
cannot live
Yes.
without water.
Yeah.
And it's just so much better for you. And I noticed the difference. Women in perimenopause and menopause, we're getting our blood taken
Yeah.
constantly, right? To
Yeah.
see where we are and all that and the other, and where our levels are. And it was great to see my levels with the sugar
Come
and
down.
just come down
Mhm.
seismically. And my
Yeah.
doctor noticed, and I was like, yeah, I'm doing the work. That was the
Yeah.
easiest thing I could do, was eliminate
Amazing. Which is
that.
just
So,
one thing. So yeah,
right.
it's so powerful.
And it's all, everything that you're talking about is all building blocks, right? And so when
Oh,
you're eating better and you're exercising, your mental health is better, you feel better about yourself. And
yeah.
that then brings us to the fifth point, which
Yep.
is sleeping. And how are
Oh
we
my
sleeping?
gosh. Yeah. So honestly, I say they're all my favorite. I'm like, oh, this is my favorite, but this is honestly one of my favorites too, because without sleep, actually, we're not going to get very far. So actually, if we reverse this whole thing, it's not in order of what's important, but sleep is one of the most important things that we could possibly do for our bodies. So sleep hygiene, if I'm not sleeping, but then doing these next four things, I'm not going to get as far as the person who sleeps and maybe doesn't do these four things as well, which is wild. So trying to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep every single night. And it's important the quality of sleep over the quantity, right? So like if we can get to bed in between 10 and 11 and wake up at, in between 6 and 7, that's way more optimal than the person going to bed at midnight and getting more hours of sleep, if that makes sense, because you're getting so much of your restorative sleep on the front end of your sleep cycle. So even if I went to bed at 10 and woke up at 4, and another person went to bed at 12 and woke up at 9, they're getting more hours, but I'm going to feel better because my quality was so much better than my quantity. So if there's anywhere you start, it's maybe just bringing your sleep hygiene back. If you can get to bed in between 10 and 11. And then another really helpful tip from a nutrition standpoint, especially women going through this stage of life, is trying to give yourself at least 2 to 3 hours from when you eat to when you actually lay down and go to bed. Your digestive system will thank you. You won't be in a digestive state, sorry, and your blood sugar won't be, going up and down. We'll be hopefully stable if we had a good dinner based on some of these other tips about the protein, fat, fiber, minimal carbs, things like that. But sleep aids in muscle recovery. It helps with, your immune system. There's just so many things, but it's really hard, like you said, to tell a person to go exercise when they're tired all the time, which is
Right.
why the nutrition comes first, the exercise comes second. So, yeah, just trying the sleep hygiene, so, so, so important.
That's great. All of it is so important. So we love partnering with you on
And I
behalf
love
of
partnering with you
Women.
guys
This
so
is
much.
so important. I could talk to you literally all day long.
Yes, I
Um,
could talk about it forever too, which is why I'm so thankful every day I'm in this space.
and this, like I said at the beginning, this is such an important topic for her. All of these things being the building blocks and the gut health
Totally.
and oh God. So I know that we have a offer out for our Women S followers, certainly at the after party, our private Facebook group, as well as the women who come to our social media site. So I wanted you to talk a little bit about the grocery store
Yeah.
GPS and the things that you
Yeah.
do for women that you work with.
Yes, so I thought it would be a great idea, my team and I, to kind of produce a 3 week like crash course, minimal commitment right before the holidays of just like how to navigate the grocery store from all of these things that we kind of touched on, from reading labels, what to look for, when to buy organic or not without your grocery bill skyrocketing, how to navigate, like how to stay on the outside of the aisles and then go internal. So there's a bunch of really good, it's called a GPS grocery store course. Each week we go through different topics. It's a 30-minute Zoom that I do on Facebook. I add you guys to the group chat. You can listen to it whenever you want. I go live like at 7 p.m. Central because I'm in Austin, Texas, but then it's recorded. So anyone can listen to it at their own time. I do a whole PowerPoint with a little quiz and answer at the end just to keep your mind fresh. But it's just a crash course to understand how to maybe have a better pantry when it comes to cleaner ingredients, because as we all know, there's a bunch of sneaky ingredients in this country that are just making us sick. So I wanted to put together a simple crash course, and you can go check it out on embreewellness.org. The Women S blogs are there as well, and sign up for it. It's never too late because I have the courses, so you can reach out to me anytime. But clients and my subscribers and my people find it pretty helpful to just for families too, just how to shop properly.
Great. Well, thank you so
Yeah.
much for your time, Lauren. And I'm going to put all of this information in the post below. So
Amazing. Sounds great.
thank
Thank you
you.
so much. Yes, that was a blast.
I've enjoyed talking with you.
Yes, same. I'll talk with you soon. Bye,
Okay.
everyone.